and you crashed it down on that poor girl's head like...
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
Welcome back. It is one fucking hour time. And here we are, another week, another movie. Of course, this is the show where we talk about one goddamn movie, and we have just one fucking hour to do it. I'm Evan Husney. To my left, we got returning, as always, here, Miss Ramey Bennett. How's it going, Ramey?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And to the right, we got Mr. Marcus Herring. Marcus, welcome back.
Hey, you two. It's really great to be back doing an actual movie this week, after our bonus episode.
Oh,
right.
Like 100 movies.
Yes,
God.
That's right. Yes, I guess I was going to plug it in a second here, but we had a new video on Patreon that is maybe going to be a little controversial. We have a new bonus episode up right now, which is the three of us went back and we looked at the New York Times list of the top 100 films from the 21st century that they published. It was an aggregated list, so it's not like they curated it, but because it was like people ballots and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it was very funny we went through all 100 movies, which took over 2 hours, and there's a lot of
totally blasted out after that.
I know.
I felt super exposed too.
Yeah, because I lost
answering about.
If you want to know how we
I lost
really
the will to care,
Yeah, if you want to know how we really feel about all these new movies, go over there and check it out, because I think the takes there are very honest and very spicy.
I got a little too just kind of blunt and dismissive.
A little too honest. Yeah, so I think normal YouTube, it wouldn't be for normal YouTube.
No.
It's not.
No.
So it's not. I'm glad it's behind a paywall.
Behind closed doors.
Yeah. So if you want to see it, if you want to see us doing 2 hours on the top 100 movies of the 21st century as per the New York Times, head over to the Patreon, because it's up there. It's a lot of fun.
I'd say we're mainly nonplussed. Might be the adjective I would use.
Yeah, totally.
It's not outrage. It's kind of like
no. It's just it's very fun.
Well, you can't discount the context of it all. Doing all 100 in a row too. We
It's
were
true.
much nicer in the first top 50 than
That's
the
true.
and then
It's
it was
true.
like next. Move
Yeah,
on.
I know. Yeah, right. So very funny stuff. It's all the way up there. Definitely go check it out. But what are we doing this week? We're doing, I'm very excited about this because we just started a new series last week. It was episode 150 of the show, where we launched this new high concept, crazy idea that we're doing here, which we're calling One Fucking Year. Of course, One Fucking Year. Where we're starting with 1950 in light of the, 150 episodes, and looking at one movie per year until, I don't know, like one film per year per episode until we get to the present. I don't know, question mark?
Wow.
Maybe.
We'll see. We don't know. That could be high concept, but at least for the year, we're going to do that. So, of course, last week was 1950 with Sunset Boulevard. Thank you, everybody, for checking that out. Got a great response. I think people were very excited that we covered that movie. And it was so fun to revisit that movie. What a great movie. And so that means, of course, this week for episode 151, we're getting into a movie from 1951. And many were considered. Many were, there was a lot of recommendations from you guys as well on what we should cover. A lot of options. It was tough not to just go into Ace in the Hole, because that's, but doing two Billies back to back might not have been.
But it is so incredible. If anyone
film.
hasn't seen it, it's amazing.
Incredible. There were Strangers in a Train, Hitchcock. Ooh. There was other
Streetcar.
Streetcar.
Yeah.
Streetcar Named Desire.
Yeah.
So, but the film that we went into this week, I'm so glad we did, because there's so much to talk about. We're doing George Stevens' A Place in the Sun from 1951. Yes, starring Montgomery Clift. And I can't remember her name. I just can't
Elizabeth
do it.
Taylor.
I can't
Catherine
do it.
Hepburn.
That's
Elizabeth
what I keep. It's like
fucking Taylor.
one of those names,
God, Liz.
Elizabeth
Liz.
Taylor.
Yes, Elizabeth Taylor. So this is a great film. If you've not seen it, I highly urge you check it out prior to this. But, you do you, of course. I'm not going to tell anybody how to enjoy this. But yeah, very excited about it. And then, of course, we'll get into the hour. But first, let me just do one quick. Even though I already did, we already cheated, I guess. But one quick plug for the one fucking hour. Patreon. Patreon.com/onefucking-hour is where you can sign up to watch this new bonus episode that we're talking about. The top 100 films of the 21st century. But yeah, that's where all the bonus episodes of One Fucking Hour live. You also get, if you're a member of the Patreon, you get 24-hour plus early access to all the new episodes. You get to see them before anybody else does. But if you want all your bonus content to live on YouTube, just find the join button underneath this video, click that, and become a Momen of the YouTube channel. And all the proceeds, from being a Patreon member or a YouTube member, go to support our One Fucking Hour brother, Tom Fitzgerald. Tom, we love you. If you have not heard, Tom is on medical leave from the show. He had a major medical emergency a few months ago, and so he'll be taking some serious time off from the show. And so, but of course, there's going to be a lot of expenses tied to that, so we're here to help him out. And we thank everybody who signed up this far. You guys are incredible. All the letters of encouragement, and just we really appreciate that. So thank you guys so much. So 100% of all the Patreon and YouTube subscriptions will go to support Tom Fitzgerald. So, all right. So yeah, new bonus episode up now, and very controversial viewing. Okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, thank you for supporting Tom and us, and here's us shitting on all the movies you probably like. No, not really. I mean, we did
Just of the past 25
I
years.
know, but we did also.
Yeah.
There's a lot of love we did give.
And
to
it
some-
also inspires you to kind of make your own list. And
Yes.
what would
Right.
Yes.
how would you curate that
Like Evan was
list?
probably really upset that Silver Linings Playbook wasn't on. the top.
He was devastated.
I was devastated. Yeah. No. But maybe there's another video in us picking, making a list of some
Yeah,
kind.
I've been doing that kind of like
Yeah,
in my
me too,
head
me
all
too.
week. Just
Maybe
like,
we'll do that.
that movie or that. Yeah.
Maybe we'll get into it. But all right, I'm ready to get into this movie. So I'm going to get the clock ready for this one. I'm nervous about the clock on this one a little bit. Wait, let me rewind that one a little bit here. Okay. Getting it locked and loaded, guys. Strap in. Hold on to something. Here we go. Okay. All right. A place in the... Here's a little... Obviously, the plot synopsis. Don't want to get ahead of myself. That we always read. Here we go. A Place in the Sun follows George Eastman, played by Montgomery Clift, a poor young man who claws his way into high society and falls hard for wealth, beauty, and the illusion of belonging. While romancing a glamorous heiress, he's trapped by an earlier relationship with a factory worker whose unexpected pregnancy threatens everything he wants. Desperation pushes George toward a moral cliff where ambition, class, shame, and desire collide. What follows is a slow, suffocating unraveling that asks how far someone will go to escape where they came from. It's a glossy American dream that curdles into tragedy, romantic, ruthless, and deeply unforgiving. And of course, I want to add that Charlie Chaplin himself famously called this film, quote, the greatest movie ever made about America. Pretty cool stuff. So here's the film, and we're going to get into it. And much like last week, I do want to get into the film as quickly as possible without a lengthy preamble, but there's a couple things I want to mention first before we do that. It's a little prescient in some ways that we're doing this because it was cool to see this. We recently saw Josh Safdie, of course, who directed Marty Supreme, did a little letterboxed video or something where he was shouting out some movies that inspired Marty Supreme. And this was one of the movies that he selected, which I thought was very interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had wanted to do. Well, I've been such a fan of this movie since I was like a teenager. It's always been one of my favorites. So I was pitching this to you guys or to Evan.
Yep.
And then I came across that letterbox video. I thought that was interesting because Marty Supreme tackles a lot of these themes, like the post-war life of striving and ambition, and so I thought that was really cool. I was happy to see that this was an influence. I thought that was pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
and he was that he was giving some love towards it and getting maybe some more eyeballs on it. I mean, this was a huge movie back in its time. It was a monster classic. George Stevens won Best Director at the Oscars for it. So this was one of the big movies of 1951.
Yeah, and then Marty Supreme is set in 1952. So it's
there you go.
It's the same climate.
It's in the air. It's in the air. Yeah. But quickly, the
Different points of the American dream. Maybe, though, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Totally.
But yeah.
Yes, definitely.
The idea of fighting for this kind of mobility, status, and your dreams and ambition and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and in that way, it's also a nice kind of companion piece with last week as well, too, in that it also does look at, this strive for, American greatness, if you want to call it that or whatever.
Yeah, they're good like a double feature.
Good double bills. Yeah.
Double bill.
The other thing I wanted to mention before we get into it is just George Stevens, because he's a very interesting, character in Hollywood, director. He was known prior to this movie mainly for his comedies, right? I mean, Swing
Yeah.
Time, help me.
Woman of the Year with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, which is one of the best, just beautiful, fun, just like rollicking, really great, just like classic, funny 1940s gems, like Vivacious Lady.
We watched that.
With
We watched
Ginger
it.
Rogers and
Yeah,
Jimmy Stewart,
yeah, it was
Swing
great.
Time, Alice Adams with Katharine Hepburn, which is really incredible. It actually shares some themes with this film.
Nice.
But through a much lighter sort of kind of portrayal.
Right.
Executed in a much lighter way, but
Right.
similar themes of class and
Right.
and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so, he's known for doing... Oh, so Mark, you're going to say something?
Oh, no. I want to talk about the World War II stuff. So go
We're
ahead.
getting there.
Yeah,
We're getting
yeah.
there. Yeah. So that's what, he's known for this lighter stuff, making these lighter comedy films, and he's, great at it. And of course, that was what he was known for. But as soon as things started heating up with the war, there's a tremendous documentary series I can't recommend enough on Netflix called Five Who Came Back, which looks at Frank Capra, William Wyler, John Ford, et cetera, and George Stevens, how they all enlisted in the war to join basically these documentary units that were going over there to capture everything that was happening on the front lines. And many of them came back not only physically changed by either getting injured or whatever, but definitely emotionally changed.
Right.
And
Like George Stevens, he shot like D-Day footage,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
And then
Yep.
he shot like 16 millimeter at Dachau.
Yes.
Well,
Like,
that's
in-
the
in
big
color,
thing.
which is incredible.
That's the big thing, yeah. And it really, in this Five Who Came Back series, it just puts it in perfect perspective and shows you the power of that footage, because he basically, you don't know what you're stumbling into at that time. People weren't totally aware of what these Nazi atrocities were,
Yeah.
what were happening in concentration camps. And they stumbled on Dachau, and he was with, I think General Eisenhower, and they went to liberate the concentration camp, and they're seeing all these just ghastly, horrific, unspeakable images of stacks of bodies, and it's some of the most horrifying footage ever filmed by man.
Yeah.
But he captured all that, and that was later used as evidence in the trial, in the Nuremberg trials. And it was right, Raimi, it was like the linchpin kind of.
It was, I mean, without that visual live, that footage, I don't know. Like, we don't know if justice would have been served in the way it was with the Nazis, because having the power of film and photography, I mean, like during times of these atrocities and fascism and genocides or whatever's happening in history, like the power of Vietnam War,
The moving image, yeah.
Yeah, civil rights, seeing the protesters,
Right.
with the dogs and the fire hoses, like seeing the power of an image, right? But with something as massive as what was happening in Nazi Germany. The fact that these guys, these American filmmakers left their careers.
The huge
and
careers, yeah.
And the moral certitude and duty
Yeah.
and just courage of these people. I mean, it's so humbling and inspiring. I mean, I was just like in tears
Yeah.
watching this documentary.
Yeah.
And they're walking into these concentration camps, they're talking to the survivors, they're writing letters to the people who are on their deathbeds, to their family members. And George Stevens was saying, once you saw what humans are capable of and what humans are, capable of surviving, it just completely shifted his sort of perspective.
Yeah, he comes back, right? And he's like, nothing's funny anymore, guys. We're not making comedies anymore, because I forgot what funny is.
Yeah,
And
he had PTSD too, because he was there for quite a while actually, and he compared to like John Huston and John Ford, I mean, they all were doing incredible work, but it was weird.
think he
Stevens
saw the
was kind of like,
darkest shit.
and he kind of was there for a good amount of time, like really in the shit, witnessing probably the most extreme horrors anyone could witness.
So that's interesting to know from a contextual point of view of, here's a guy doing all of these sort of like lofty, amazing comedy films.
And so frothy, like vivacious and frothy and just, a delight.
Yeah, like Jimmy Stewart comedies. And then now he's seen the deepest, darkest pit of humanity, and now he's coming back. And there's no more fun and games. And we're gonna make a movie like this, A Place in the Sun, where this is a very grim sort of.
There's not a lot of jokes in this.
There's no gags. No
gags.
No, there's some black comedy though. We'll talk about it, but
a little bit.
But it's like the dark side of humanity in a way, but also of an indictment of certain societies and power and capitalism and all these things. So he's sort of he's looking deeper into like how systems shape us and society can shape us. Yeah,
totally. So let's get into it if you guys don't mind. Just because there's a lot to get to. So the movie opens. Let's talk about shot one. Right over the credits, we see Montgomery Clift, who's amazing in this film. I mean, just
beautiful.
That face, that sort of pre-James Dean iconic Hollywood face.
Right.
Method
acting.
Method Man.
Yep, Method Man. Method Man and Red Man.
Actor.
Yep.
Hitchcock said he always looked like he had the angel of death walking alongside him.
Oh,
damn. That's cool. Yeah. So we see him kind of a la First Blood, if you will. He's hitchhiking in the middle of the road wearing a leather jacket. And, so we were saying he kind of is looking a little boho, is what I'm calling it. He looks a little bohemian.
He's a little beatific.
Yes, he is. He's
bringing that 50s fashion, like that. He's wearing the Hawaiian shirts in this movie.
Later on,
the leather jackets. Like he's bringing the 50s very early.
Yes.
You also see, we'll talk about this later, but you see they use costume in this movie to show like the evolution of his character. So
yes,
right here it's side of the road, the sort of dusty trousers. He's got the the leather. He's it's
and those wardrobe those are like post-war things too, right? Like the Pacific theater, like Hawaiian shirts, and then the leather jacket being like an Air Force thing.
Yep. And while we're talking about it, Edith Head, of course, is the famous costume designer behind this film. So
who's amazing.
Super.
She also did Sunset Boulevard costumes.
Oh, there you go. So perfect.
Because Elizabeth Taylor stuff is nuts in this too.
Yes.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Anyway,
super iconic clothing everywhere in this movie. But anyway, he's hitchhiking on the side of the road. He's coming from Chicago. And there's a great moment where he's backing up into the camera, and he's framed perfectly, symmetrically. The camera, he's back to the camera. He turns around, and immediately he's hit with the image of this Eastman billboard. Okay, Eastman, a company that we're going to learn a lot more about, that manufactures women's clothing. But it's this beautiful picture of a woman, very Americana, picturesque, like sort of
in a bathing suit.
In a bathing suit, right? And that's what Eastman makes, right? And it's sort of like this evocative of, this American dream type image, very aspirational, or even like the opening of Blue Velvet, kind of in a way where it's showing kind of like, this is the perfect, kind of idyllic place, it's captured in this image.
True.
And then you see him fixated on that ad. And a detail that viewers might not notice on first viewing is that it cuts from there and you see Elizabeth Taylor driving by.
In the white convertible.
In the white convertible. Yeah. She's obviously going to play a much bigger part of the story, but and so that's kind of showing that, and that plays in a weird way. Like that's such a weird choice.
Well, you see him looking, so it's this almost strange, odd feeling of like this predestiny sort of like pulling him towards something. But you're not, a viewer isn't really aware of what that is at the time.
Right.
But there's definitely an aura that's pulling him towards this town, towards this vision of a new life and a new dream.
Right. Right.
And then Eastman bathing suits, like they make bathing suits, and I feel like that's significant too because it's sort of like the ruling class or the upper classes. Their whole thing is about vacations and frivolity and entertainment, and that's sort of the whole world that he's about to sort of.
And it's also water based, which does come up quite a bit as foreshadowing.
Fun in the sun, a place in the sun. It's like who gets to deserve that kind of life of amusement and stuff.
Right.
It's funny the restraint that they show with just her driving by because it is so quick, and they don't make a big deal out of it. And these days it would be like a slow down thing.
Oh yeah, you might miss it totally.
Like some song would play and she would tilt her sunglasses.
Yep.
It's like an Easter egg almost. It's weird. It's almost like a subconscious.
It is an Easter egg.
Subliminal kind of thing.
Totally. So he gets to town and he's immediately trying to find a fellow named Charles Eastman, who we find out is his it's his uncle, and his uncle is the owner of Eastman Clothing, of the bathing suit company. And he's got a card with his uncle's handwriting on it, like, just give this to the guy at the gate, kid. And he's essentially hitchhiked all the way from Chicago to try and get a job with his uncle. And
His cousin Gregging.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, very much
There you
so.
go.
Very
Perfect.
much.
Perfect. Yep, exactly. So he walks into the office. He's not there, and they try to get a hold of George for him. And they try to get a hold of Charles for him. And yeah, it's all set up. He's going to go meet his uncle at his, huge mansion house and hopefully get set up with a job. But what's interesting there is when he gets into his office, there's a lot of little cool details there. He immediately looks down and sees checks that are worth $100,000. He kind of lights up that, there's a lot of money involved in this whole thing. There's a great shot where it's, it's a wide shot of him sitting at the desk, sort of kind of imagining if he were this powerful CEO himself, so there's a lot of that in there. And then he goes to buy a very unsophisticated looking suit for $35, in order to anticipate this meeting with his uncle. And then we get to his uncle's house. And this is very interesting because we see the family talking about him before he arrives. And that's where this kind of class clash is sort of introduced where, they mention, George is dropping by tonight and they're like, oh, George, like that kid,
Right. He's going to preach to us.
From the other side of the tracks.
Right.
A poor religious woman.
It's like, he's like an embarrassing appendage to the family, right?
Totally.
They don't even know what to do with it. They can't even talk about it.
What shall we do with him socially? Leave town.
Yeah.
But what are we going to do about him socially? That's easy. We can all leave town.
Yeah, so they don't know what to do with him, and they laugh that he last worked as a bellhop in Chicago. And they don't know what to do with him socially.
It's incredibly, snobby and
yes,
it's like horrible behavior.
Yes, but yeah, we sort of gather as the audience that he comes from a different social strata. But we see him come in, and he walks in, and again, just great metaphorical framing, if you will, where you see George come in, and he's coming in from the background into the door, and we see the rich family in the foreground, and of course, just by proportion, they look much bigger than he does. He looks like this tiny little guy walking in the frame, amongst these rich giant people, important people. So I appreciate that.
The way it's shot is incredible. Like it's every time that Montgomery Clift is in a scene with someone, it's very deliberate where the camera is positioned and how it's sort of the composition is what that is signaling to the audience. Like he's this outsider, And
the frames are awkward and
right.
Yeah, that happens.
At the same time, they point out that he looks exactly like his cousin. He looks like the spitting image of his cousin. So but they're just from different branches of the family. It's showing that they're like the same genes and the same.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's this incredible awkwardness, and it's like you see him. It's strange, in between the two, family figures, and he's this little figure
that doesn't
and
fit.
Could the physicality that the psychological realism too that Montgomery Clift is projecting, this total vulnerability, this sort of fish out of water, awkward.
Oh, he's so good at it.
It's really beautiful. You could read all of those emotions on his face.
And I also feel like George Stevens too. I think having the comedy chops and the comedy timing chops that he had as a director is imploring that here. Where you see Montgomery Clift, his body language, he doesn't say anything to these people. He's waiting for them to say something to him. And there's just these long, drawn out, awkward pauses that you might see in an early 2000s comedy or something, in
the reaction shots.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
There's this amazing dialogueless reaction shot that's totally for comedic timing where they just kind of are staring at him and, well, we don't know what to do with you.
It's very kind of you.
It's it's amazing.
He's censoring himself because he doesn't want to say the wrong thing.
Yeah. Right. And you could just tell there's no sense of authentic understanding. It's they're condescending to him and, very awkwardly asking about his mother and her religious, and they're just not getting it.
It's amazing, subtle performance acting.
It's wild too that, he's just such a good actor. And but it's so cool that he's able to embody that because I guess his background is that his mother, told him that he was better than everyone else, and basically treated him and his siblings like they were like nobility.
Wow.
Yeah, he was raised like a young aristocrat, but then supposedly his dad then lost his money. But but it's interesting. I mean, the way that like we're talking about him being a method. Like he was one of the first method actors, studied Lee Strasberg in New York, how Brando did. So this whole thing was the opposition to acting and performing, and it was about being and behaving. So his performance is being in a space and behaving.
Yeah, that's what
it's incredible.
That's what you can really glean from this, because you can sense what he's thinking and what he's feeling as the character in this film at all times, and that's really
it was psychological realism on a level that we hadn't really seen with male performers at that time.
True. So he's looking for a job at the mill that his uncle says, yes, of course, we're going to hook you up. But then here we go. Elizabeth Taylor walks in. Angela, her character's name, walks in, and just there's that. She walks in, wearing this incredible dress. And it just cuts to this very, iconic close-up of George just staring at her, and it's this great close-up of him. And immediately he's like...
transfixed.
He's transfixed, but it's in this pretty creepy way. I mean, he's really staring at her in a way that feels almost like a little unhealthy, Like, and
but that's the idea. It's like it's total infatuation with like this beautiful dream just like wafts in, and everything that he could ever imagine is standing in front of him. Like the world he never thought he could aspire to is encapsulated and personified in this gorgeous woman in a white dress.
Yeah, it's amazing. So great sort of way to introduce Elizabeth Taylor's character into this movie.
But also, he's like invisible. And this is to everybody. Like it's them, and she walks in, and she's like a firefly, with like light, and like they all go over to her, and then like you could see she doesn't even notice him.
Right.
And it's like he's this in that social class, in that environment. He's like an invisible man, pretty much.
Totally. And there's great other moments of that, which we'll get to soon here. So then it cuts to the next day, and he goes to the factory, and he's there with his cousin who's giving him the tour of the place, and he introduces the company rule. Okay, the company rule is there's 9 out of 10 employees in this factory are women, and there's a company policy where you can't date any of them, essentially. And he's like, all right, whatever. And he gets a job on the assembly line, pretty much at the bottom, where he's just a fumbling mess trying to get all these packages and, in order and everything. And it's interesting that we see then a montage of him doing that and getting better at putting the clothes in the box, but that same billboard image of the Eastman swimsuits is looming over him in that shot, which I do think is pretty great.
This nice little calendar montage too of the weeks passing and the swimsuit picture.
Yes.
And he's being very like diligent about his work and keeping track of it. And really he's, he really believes in this. If I can work hard enough.
And he's putting together a proposal for like how to max out efficiency on the line and stuff. But then we meet another character here. We meet Alice. He starts smiling at this girl, played by Shelley Winters, of course, who's working on the assembly line. And then it basically, they kind of smile, a little flirt back and forth. And then one night he's just walking alone after work. He wanders into a movie theater and he sits next to Shelley Winters and gets a little closer, moves one seat closer. And then you can see that there's sort of like some tension and some, romantic interest between the two of them. And so after the movie's over, they go on a walk together, and there's a great moment here. This is a cool moment where they're on a walk, but it's just this weird darkness of them creeps into the movie where he stops and notices these like children singing like a religious song. They're like carolers almost on the street. And he stops because this is sort of like, it haunts him in a way because he's seeing his own origin story there. That's what he used to do with his mother, back in Chicago.
And his life back home.
Yes. Yeah, and that this is everything he's trying to escape from, and it stops him in his tracks and actually runs him cold, Right. And so that's a little, that moment is a little unsettling.
The past is chasing him. Like, can he really escape his past?
Right.
Can he escape his social class and what he was born into? And is that even possible? Or is this
interesting
because
those details aren't even revealed yet. It's
I know.
You don't know that till the end of the movie, basically.
It's true. There's a lot here that on second viewing it becomes more apparent, but that just was like, wow, really cool detail. Because like staring at like a kid singing these like nice songs shouldn't be something that's so terrifying. Anyway, so he walks her home. They say goodnight. He kisses her. But then he continues to push himself on her, like, I've waited so long, you know? And she's like, you got to be careful because they're not supposed to be seen and socially together. But he's like almost pleading with her, almost on his hands and knees to let him into her house. It seems like, go ahead.
There's something strange about it. Like it actually weirdly reminded me a bit of The Master, like Joaquin Phoenix in The Master, how they portray his character. It's almost just like not a fully formed like person in society yet.
Sure.
Like sort of this like amorphous animalistic sort of awkward character that is like part innocent but part like animal. It's weird. Like he's
and just inexperienced and probably virginal,
and he's like being led by kind of like instinct, and he has this weird like wonder in his eye. So he's strange. It's almost like he hasn't been formed fully into this society yet. He's like a little like tadpole or something.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very awkward and
very different from what we're used to seeing on screen too. Like just like the hyper masculine performances and stuff.
I know.
Seeing this like sensitive, awkward guy.
Yeah, like we're used to. You were at that point. You'd be used to like a Humphrey Bogart, a Cary Grant, and very. I don't know, like
Marlon Brando,
polished. Well, but like they used to be very polished and kind of masculine, and
totally
dashing.
There's no like grace or like I'm gonna sweep you off your feet. It's very like uncomfortable and a little disturbing
and damaged. Like there's something very damaged
and desperate and desperate.
Yeah,
there's desperation.
You just see the pain and desperation in his eyes.
Yeah, and like yearning, like vulnerable yearning.
And shadows seem to like find underneath his brow very often in this movie.
They burrow under the brow.
I love it.
I mean, his performance is so great, but it's also intensified just by his own personal history too, and like what we learned about him after. I think when you go back and watch Montgomery Clift movie, if you know anything about him, you know that he had like a huge car accident. With, like his face was like disfigured, and he had plastic surgery. And then he came back, and you could tell he had plastic surgery, so they had to shoot him from like the right angle, from the right profile for his movies, and basically had drug addiction and stuff, and someone called it the longest suicide in Hollywood history. It took like 10 years for him to sort of fall apart. But
he always had that haunted, like there was always a haunted quality about him.
And he's perfect with
and
this.
he turned down the role in Sunset Boulevard.
Yes.
Which is really interesting.
Yes.
Because that would have been such a different movie.
Also, there's a closeted too or something.
He was gay.
Bisexual? Was he bisexual?
Yeah, he was bisexual, but
both are mentioned kind of.
But
I don't know.
Yeah.
Pretty gay, I think.
Right. Elizabeth Taylor said bye, I think.
Yeah.
They were really tight friends.
Very close friends.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So, all right. So the next day, he's out. I think he's like walking, and he doesn't go inside to spend the night. By the way, with Shelley Winters, they part ways. The next day, he sees Angela like in her car, and again he stares at her and gets obsessed with her.
Yeah, it's like an infatuation.
It's a total infatuation. And then he goes to hang out again with Shelley Winters, and they go out to like a makeout spot. They have dinner together, and all this stuff. They get kicked out of the makeout spot by the police. And then they do wind up spending a night together. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is a very interesting way to shoot this because it's, again, feels very non-traditional. It's like the camera always finds the same place in her dwelling.
Yeah, in Alice's house. Yeah.
In Alice's house, it's always in that security camera angle. Like way
behind
back.
The table.
Like behind the table. But in this scene where they first, hook up, it's completely in darkness. The only light that you see really in this shot is the radio playing this music, and of course a little bit outside of the window. But it just gives it this like eerie. I don't know. It makes it feel like it makes the scene feel subtly disturbing where it shouldn't be because it's a love scene.
And it's in the dark, almost completely in darkness.
There's like two full frame dark shots in this movie, like the darkest I've ever seen
in a movie.
Any cinematic darkness in any movie.
And it's raining, and it's a little dinky radio playing this strange music, and then when you look at the juxtaposition of the shots when he's at the mansion and with Angela, Liz Taylor's character, it's bright,
dynamic,
it's white, it's like heavenly, and
then
every
framings,
time, it's beautiful Hollywood close-ups, and then whenever he's with
it's sterile
Alice, they're obscured, their faces a lot of the times are obscured.
The Elizabeth Taylor stuff shot like a dream, like the fantasy that he's after, and it is that traditional like cheesecloth like
back to Mulholland Drive. I'm sorry. There's a little bit of Mulholland Drive here too.
We'll point that out specifically when it shows up.
But there's like the dream relationship, and then there's like the kind of more grittier working class reality that
So they spend the night together. And then it's the next morning. He sneaks out early in the morning the next morning. And again, another disturbing detail. Hangs just on that radio again. That's the only thing that we're fixating on in this moment. But it's just white noise on the radio, which is just like, that also is an unsettling detail to make it seem a little off, Then it just smash cuts to this awooga horn. It's almost like symbolically sort of saying like, caution, George, some terrible shit is about to happen to you. Look out. But then we're back at work at the factory, and now his uncle comes touring by the assembly line and notices that, what the hell, my nephew or whatever is working on the assembly line. That's where you put him. And then immediately he's like, well, let's promote him and give him a better job. And so now, she can tell Shelley Winters is a little bummed out by that. And but he invites George to a party at his house. Okay, and that the party that he's going to be invited to happens to take place on George's birthday as well. But Shelley Winters, Alice, she's bummed out because she had something planned for his birthday. Yeah, and this is going to now be the first of many conflicts, conflicts that appear in this movie. But this is a great scene we're getting into because we're now going to the party at his uncle's house, and this is just another detail of amazing Montgomery Clift. His body language, this sort of aimless wandering core
it's incredible.
That he does, where he's just like, he's got that perfect, like aimless, aspirational, like, kind of filled with like, okay, well, this might be interesting. And then everyone...
And that feeling, like I totally know that if you've been to a party and you're by yourself and you're kind of awkward and you keep on looking around and you think someone smiles at you, but they don't. And you try to play it off and you don't know where to sit. And it's so palpable. Yeah. It's funny. There's a scene in it happens.
Yeah.
This girl, like in the movies, she reaches out her hand towards him and it's someone behind him.
Yeah. And it's also like any room he goes into where there's people, they all just clear out as soon as he walks in.
And it's just like a complete, outsider. But I was going to say super quick, there's a scene in Alice Adams, which is almost identical to this with Katharine Hepburn, who's like the poor girl going to the society girls party. Wow. And it's almost exact. It's really interesting. Yeah. So I think
very relatable. I think we've all been there.
Sure.
It's really relatable.
Sure, totally. So then he kind of wanders into the billiard room, and this is where he has his first one-on-one with Angela, of course, Elizabeth Taylor. Her name is Angela Vickers in this movie, and she's got, of course, this beautiful, iconic dress, and just her disposition, and she's very cheerful, and she's very nice to him. Yeah. And also being flirtatious. It kind of reminded me of like an Audrey Horne kind of vibe that she has. And
she's like genuinely drawn to him.
She is drawn to him.
I was thinking Donna, actually.
Oh, really?
Kind of like a Donna face.
Face, but Audrey kind of, in this moment, she's kind of, I don't know, maybe not as precocious.
Well, the makeup is very Audrey Horne.
Yes,
like
that's true.
The look is very Audrey.
Yes. So, but he lets it slip that like he knew about her whereabouts because she's, in the sort of society papers, the local society papers, which is like basically having like a proto TMZ sort of following this, kind of very, local famous heiress, rich girl.
And especially like in the town they're in, like there's these iconic families, like the Eastman family, the Vickers family, and they're, their society girls and gals that go out in the town and they get photographed in the newspaper. And,
it's amazing. And so then, his uncle comes in and says, you need to call your mom right now and tell her I gave you this wonderful promotion. And so he goes and uses the phone. It's very awkward. And he calls his mom. And then that's when we see the mom. And she's basically like living and working in this like derelict soup
boarding
kitchen.
house soup kitchen.
Soup kitchen where there's a bed like in the dining room. It's very grim, but you get
the antithesis of this gorgeous mansion with the champagne and the pool table and evening gowns. It's like the exact polar opposite
contrast.
Yeah.
Yep. And then she, Angela comes back up to him and basically invites him dancing, and they spend the whole night, hours and hours and hours, dancing in each other's arms, and it's very beautifully shot.
Yeah.
And
I feel like he could have lived with Alice, the other girl, Shelley Winters, before, but this was a moment where he saw that Elizabeth Taylor's like his meal ticket. That she's interested in him. She offers him that chance for like class mobility.
Yeah.
He never would have thought, probably too,
without even having to work hard. He can like just marry this girl and like all of a sudden be part of that.
Yeah.
She's like a vision. Like it's like it's almost like a religious vision. It's like so. So extreme, almost like her beauty and how sweet she is, and that she's that's why it almost reminds me of Mulholland Drive. Like the dream is almost too good to be true.
Exactly.
Like, they gravitate towards each other. It's like a perfect love, that you can only read about in books. And something I just wanted to note too is that this is based on a book from 1925 called An American Tragedy by Theodore Dreiser. And the book is awesome. I read it years ago because I went through like a bit of an obsession with this movie. But it's in the book, she's depicted as much more of like a shallow society girl who like it's not about love. He's not in it for the love. It's really just about kind of the class struggle, transcending his class and all that. And like you said, the meal ticket. But what Stevens changed in the movie was that there is this almost bizarre charge, like an electric attraction that's like you can't even deny it. And so it's like it's kind of wrapped into
she's
it.
Super just idyllic, in terms from his perspective. It's like the perfect person.
It seemed like that book was based on a real story too, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Turn of the century. Yeah. But then it seemed like maybe the book and the movie sort of romanticized the relationship that he had with these like high society women too. Like that was something they creatively kind of injected into the story,
right?
Versus being like part of the true history.
There's some other things they injected, which we'll get to too, which is pretty interesting.
The real story was like 1906. It was a same kind of thing, but it was in New York. A guy meets a girl at a factory. He gets her pregnant, but then he does start dating a society woman, and then he I don't know if he drowns her, but anyway.
All right, well let's keep moving here. So okay, after dancing all night with Angela, he goes back to Shelley. Now he's been out way late than he ever promised or said he was going to be. He comes back. It's very depressing. She's falling asleep in bed, trying to stay up and wait for him. He never called, of course. And again, it's all in one shot in the security cam corner, and she has
dripping cake or ice cream in bed or something.
She's in bed, and then she's got like the cake that she made for him out, a present for him, and she's just waiting there. And you feel that kind of lonely, just sadness about her in that moment, especially with the framing of the shot. And very stark contrast to where we just were, of course. And then she's very sad about that he never called and was very late. And he's like, what am I supposed to do? The party just wrapped up, And then they basically sit down, and then this is where it all comes out. And of course, it's done in, again, a way that I feel like they probably had to address, a premarital sort of sex pregnancy. But basically, she says, in a movie at this time period, but she basically looks at him and says, I'm in trouble. And, and then she goes to say, remember the first night you came here?
Remember the first night you came here? Oh, I'm so worried.
And then that sort of insinuates to us as the audience, like, oh shit, she's pregnant.
She got pregnant, yeah. Right. And one thing about, once again, like the juxtaposition, I was just reading a quote that Steven said, can I read it really quickly?
Sure.
He said, what really interested me was the relationship of images from this one to that. Shelley Winters, busty at the seams with sloppy melted ice cream in a brass bed, as against Elizabeth Taylor in a white gown with blue balloons floating from the sky. Automatically, that's an imbalance. And by imbalance, you create the drama. And I'm interested in knowing visually what was like how he instantly had these two extremes, these juxtapositions that he was, fighting between these two worlds. And
she did look pretty sweet and cute earlier in the movie. They
did her dirty as the movie goes on.
But they really frumped her up. Like,
they did. She's pretty frumped up.
Because Shelley Winters was like a glamour girl bombshell before this movie.
Yeah.
That was kind of her part. If you look back at pictures from the late 40s, and then they made the decision to really frump her up.
She gets mad frumpy later in this movie.
It's more like Shelley Winters as the movie goes on.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's keep going here. So, then the reality is really hitting George. We see this great moment where he's pacing around his apartment. Again, good visual storytelling. You have the Vickers company sign flashing in the background, and that's kind of mimicking, obviously, the pain and torment of confliction that's happening inside his own mind. It's great. And that goes with, again, that lit motif of, billboard imagery and how that's kind of reflecting his inner thoughts, Then we see him, take a phone call in the corner of his room. Again, more security cam kind of back into shooting him through another room.
Yeah.
And that's when he's calling Alice, and she again insinuates that they're trying to find a doctor to get an abortion, essentially.
Yeah.
But then who calls right after? Angela, and invites him out Friday night. And so now he's like, fuck, and you can
he's like really starting to lead a double life, full on.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Which does start to read as pretty sociopathic in a way. And it really raises questions about like his character, but because of his performance and the way Stevens like sort of directed him as an actor, we're always still sympathizing with him in a way, like because of this sense of almost a sense of like yearning and vulnerability. Like we're not completely demonizing him, even though some of this behavior is completely abhorrent.
Totally. Yeah. So in all of this inner torment, he's saved in a way by Angela. She comes to pick him up essentially. And they go driving and they dance, and there's these amazing moody close-ups of them.
Yeah.
She mentions that she can tell he's deep and far away. Just in the way he seems, he's obviously clearly got a lot on his mind. And that's when he professes, I love you.
I love you. I've loved you since the first moment I saw you.
And then, of course, shockingly, she reciprocates and says, I love you too.
I love you too. It scares me.
And they're quickly falling in love. And then they start plotting and planning this idyllic summer together where, Angela's family is going to vacation up in the summer, upstate and, wherever this is. And likewise with his family. And they're going to have this great summer together. And of course, that's where we see this very iconic kiss. Great soft focus. You said, what did you say? Cheesecloth kind of pantyhose in the lens kind of thing of just them.
And they're like melting into each other and filling the frame. And it's just like so dreamy. And
so dreamy.
Dreamy
and amazing. But then we cut back to meek and mousy lower class Alice, she's there and she's shot in this doom and gloom, darkness, waiting.
She's wearing like layers of coats.
Layers of coats.
And she's waiting to talk to the doctor about an abortion. It's like it couldn't get...
Which was a big deal at that time, honestly.
They
almost cut that scene because of the censors.
Yeah.
But then Stevens was like, okay, if we handle it delicately,
you can tell. Like they're saying, well, I just can't afford, we can't afford it, and the doctor, of course, talks her out of it. And then instead, this sort of makes Alice then talk to George about just getting married, which is another scene where the frame is almost entirely engulfed in black. And instead of, telling her how he really feels and what's really going on inside of him, he decides to lead her on and continues to be not honest, further sowing the seeds of like this is going down a bad path here.
Yeah.
You know?
And that scene is pretty heartbreaking when she's talking to the doctor about because she's being forced to sort of lie. And it's really sad because she loves this guy and she doesn't want to be abandoned. And, it's pretty heartbreaking.
No, totally. 100%. And so then, you see George circle September 1st and his date in his calendar. That's when they're going to get married. But then we see this is amazing. These really high contrast, menacing shots of George where the shadows are succumbing his eyes and he looks like the most menacing, dark and disturbing he can possibly look as he's listening to radio reports of all these accidental deaths that have occurred nearby.
Some 14 persons lost their lives. Among these, at least 5 were drowned.
And there's even a line that the guy in the radio says, if you aren't a good swimmer, stay away from the unpatrolled beaches. It's like feeding him these ideas. And you can really see him thinking about it. Long, disturbing, holding shots on him and stuff. And
because to even start to contemplate something as extreme as murder. I mean, this is based on a true story too. So remember that this is there is some psychological truth to how do people end up in these situations? And that goes back to the idea of committing evil acts and Nazi Germany and what is that really about? Any human being is capable of that if put in certain circumstances that sort of influence or shape their behavior, right? So these social pressures, this American dream, this capitalism, this idea of status and ambition, all these messages that are being sent to him are pushing him towards this idea. I need to discard this other life. I need to discard this, and I have an opportunity. And so in that moment when he's listening to the radio, his mind is slowly getting these dark ideas and distracted. And you're seeing the shadow self. You're seeing
exactly, and you're seeing the plotting, the dark, sinister
The
plotting.
Darkness is literally enveloping him in that moment.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Well, it's definitely a critique of that American dream, too, in the way that he's offered. It's everyone is told that you can ascend to another class or that there is some sort of upward mobility. But it's totally denied by the structures that are in place.
100%. It's a total myth. It's a lie. And so when it doesn't deliver, you feel completely disappointed.
And the movie is kind of a showing that that these two classes are sort of incompatible. You know,
100%. So I actually got it wrong earlier, but this is the scene when Angela then picks him up and saves him sort of from his dark, quote unquote, thoughts. And that's when they sort of plan about, vacationing for the weekends. And then that's when it's revealed that there's a conflict with the date that they're getting married and the weekend getaway. It's overlapping essentially. And so, and it sounds perfect. They're going to go horseback riding. I'm going to make you breakfast every morning. Oh my God. How can you turn this down? And so then it drives him to phone up Alice and basically lie to her and say, give me one more week before we can get married. And she allows that. She greenlights that. And then we see him. And then as soon as he gets permission to live out that lie, it just smash cuts to Angela in a bikini, water skiing, in the boat.
I'll wait here.
And they're in party time, beach party time, they're having together. And you were saying, Raimi, too, that the sound is on.
So basically, the sound is really interesting in this movie. The choices that he was making, the jet on the water ski motorboat, he used a Nazi jet plane as the sound for that, and he wanted it to evoke the feeling of this bombardment, dread. And it was something about that, cutting into that water, into that life, he was embarking on something extremely dangerous. You know? Because it's so idyllic, but at the same time, he's making these choices that are terrible,
self-destructive.
It's terrifying. It's self-destructive.
Really,
terrifying choices.
Reckless choices.
In the name of this life and this dream and this ambition, it's at the risk of just sanity and people's lives.
Right. Yeah. So we get some more hardcore foreshadowing coming here. There's a lot of it in this movie, where Angela and George then go down to this lake and they swim. And then we hear these lines that Angela says. She tries to swim in the lake, but it's too cold. And she goes, "It's the coldest lake I've ever known. I always freeze to death in this lake."
Yeah.
And then she talks to him about all the local drownings that have happened there. And it took 5 days before they found any of the bodies. And one of them they never found. And so he's more ideas, inspiration.
I think they shot it at Lake Tahoe, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. And then there's a really heartbreaking moment where we see Alice. She's, not looking so hot, and she goes over to the mailbox, and she opens the mailbox, and she sees right on the front page, homeboy George has made the sort of society papers and is right there hanging out with Angela and her friends, and so she knows what's going on. And so she phones George, who's in the middle of having this Hawaiian-themed dinner with his family. And it's like, again, more idyllic. Like they're like, we're going to promote you to senior management, and all this stuff. But then he gets a phone call, and it's his fiance, and she announces, "I'm here at the bus station."
That dreaded feeling when you're in that scene. It's like, no.
Like,
because it's weird. Like, part of you wants him to live it out. Like, part of you is really almost rooting for him.
I know.
But at the same time, your heart is breaking for this, and but
like,
it's
dump her.
and
You're almost there. You're going to be a millionaire.
Yeah, but George Stevens said this like really horrible thing. He said that Alice is the kind of girl you like mess around with in the dark, but when the lights come in the morning, you're like, get me out of here. How did I do that? And like he wanted the audience to almost have that feeling.
Well,
about
he did
her.
it very successfully with the mild transformation Shelley Winters goes on in this movie. It's very unfair, but we're going to get into that in a second here because so she says, "I'm at the bus station. You lied to me for the last time. Come and get me, or I'm going to come there and tell everybody what the fuck's going on." And of course, that would throw everything off because not only, he's in another relationship, but they're also not supposed to be together because of that company policy thing.
And he's trying to impress Angela's parents because they want to get engaged, hopefully. So
yes, and
this whole thing is about, can he prove to them that he belongs?
And he's been doing a good job at it so far.
Yeah, he's working towards that.
Don't say much.
Yeah.
Just, work hard.
Just play along.
Get in
work
good
hard.
with the girl.
Right.
Don't say anything stupid.
So
exactly.
George picks her up at the train station. And she demands they must get married to him tomorrow, or she'll go to the papers, expose him, or she'll kill herself. And then of course they try to. It's like, all right, like we're gonna go. So then they go to the courthouse the next morning, and of course it's closed for Labor Day. Holy shit! But again, and then his mind is really thinking like, how am I gonna get out of this? And that's when he decides, all right, maybe we should go to the lake and have a picnic. If you catch my drift, and so. They go down to the lake, and then this is like where I think it's getting a little unfair because they really go out of. She's looking frumpy in this scene,
but it's also really sad when she's in the car and like he's like, no, let's go get a picnic, and she's starting to get really like happy again because like it's that feeling of feeling really desperate, especially when someone's deceiving you,
right?
And they want to like leave you. Like she knows that in her heart, but she wants to hold on to him so badly, and like. When she finally thinks like, oh, he really does like me, and maybe he does. It's like so sad that like.
No, I agree, and I think to touch on the frumpy transformation. It's I think it's kind of signaling to us as the audience like, we're supposed to kind of get a little more repulsed by her in some way, and instead, and that kind of exonerates him, right? Subconsciously to us,
Got the babushka.
I know.
Like,
that's like one step. I know. I know. It's so bad. So it's kind of a little unfair to her because it doesn't see us as the sociopathic monster that this guy truly is, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
What it's trying, one thing that he talked about trying to explore was like the ambiguity there,
right?
In terms of a person in a circumstance that the society is the one to almost blame for the predicament that this man is in. So like instead of just making it black and white.
Yeah,
right?
that all comes out at the trial.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
Whoops, no spoilers.
Nah, it's okay. So, we're about to spoil everything here because what happens is they go down to the lake. He lies to her that the car ran out of gas. That's pretty grisly. And then they go down to the lake. They rent a boat and they row out far away into the lake. And we see these very foreboding and scary shots of. Silent shots, really, of just them descending in further into the darkness of this, nighttime lake excursion.
Really creepy with that mountain in a shadow.
Yeah, wildlife really sound effects, and this is just like kind of funny in a dark way. Is where she just goes on, sort of talking about wanting to live in a small house, and it's just going to be small enough just for the two of us.
And
then
she was like, doesn't it seem like there's no one else in the world? Like, when we get off this boat, it's just the two. It's like terrifying.
And everything she's saying is like his worst nightmare in that moment. So it's like, and then she's like, just a house that's just small enough for the two of us. Oh, actually, there's going to be more than two of us. As she's alluding to.
And she's like, I don't mind being poor. No. Just forget your dreams.
No, but it's like this. She's like, there's going to be more than two of us. And it's smashed to big cut, loud music like, no!
Only there's going to be more than two of us, isn't it?
And it's like, and then, or it's like, exactly. Like, I don't mind being poor. John.
I'm not afraid of being poor. Stop it all.
Yeah. And she is saying in that moment, she's like, put away your dreams. Like, don't keep
be happy
on striving.
with what you have.
Be happy. And like that's the moment where it's like, fuck, no. Like, you're ripping everything away from me.
Yeah, exactly. And you feel this, everything she's saying everything she's saying is the most repulsive concept to him in that moment.
Yeah.
He's sweating profusely.
Yeah.
And so then, and they make her very scary in this moment.
It's actually really terrifying.
Because we're seeing it through his perspective. And then she says, do you wish I was dead? It gets very dark.
Ooh.
And then she comes toward him. And this is where the boat capsizes.
Before it capsizes too, it's like just the shots are really cool. Like the framing of her with like the sky. It's like the first time we're really seeing her close up in that way.
Yeah.
And I think it's really like just beautiful.
Totally.
The two of them. Yeah.
All right, I'm getting scared with the
talking. Okay.
We have a whole hour. I have a whole hour of the movie left.
No, I know. But there's things we can go by. But anyway, all right. So, so the boat capsizes, falls over, right? And then this is where, he's the only one to emerge, but he runs into these camping kids and they spot him. That's going to play later on. Now we have the district attorney, played, of course, by Raymond Burr. Shout out, from Rear Window and
Perry Mason.
He's great in this, of course. But he's reunited with Angela and he's very happy to see them. And, I guess now it's time to tell my dad we're going to get married. And he has this sort of meeting with her dad. And he's very honest about his background. He's very disturbed about what's going to happen. But he tells the dad, like, this is really where I'm from, but I love your daughter and da-da-da. And he appreciates that honesty. And things are really looking up. Like, he's being very genuine to him. And the dad accepts it pretty much. George just wants to be alone with her. But these society friends, wearing their Hawaiian shirts are trying to, basically muddy up everything.
And they're very scary to me. Like the way the society friends are depicted, they're like, it reminded me of like Hitchcock's like The Birds. Like they're like, meh, and they're like descending on them. Like they're these kind of like frivolous, empty-headed people, and they're kind of terrifying.
They're sort of reenacting what happened too, right? Like he tosses the girl into the water. And stuff.
I know, and it gives him his PTSD
like frivolous
shot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, which I love.
You definitely see like the superficiality of her whole group, like compared to him, who's like this brooding weirdo.
Totally. And then to kind of move things along, like, essentially, it comes out. There's a murder, or people believe it to be a murder, something. People are investigating it. The cops go to, they find out who it is. They find out it's Alice. They go to the house where she was living, and the house woman of this place basically gives it up that it was George Eastman. So now they're out looking for George Eastman. And George says to Angela, like, there's going to be a reason for that. People are going to tell you terrible things about me and you're not going to love me anymore. And one thing leads to the next. He's running around in the woods away from the police. And there's a shot of this smoking cop, this like arresting the cop. It's super scary and like crazy shot. But they basically catch him in the woods and they arrest him and they take him away. And, Angela is super upset and she collapses on the floor when she hears the news. And it's crazy. And so what winds up happening is they make a deal with the district attorney that they're going to keep Angela's name out of the papers. She's not going to be part of the defense in any way. They're going to keep her out of the trial and out of the papers to protect her and, of course, of her status. But then there's a big trial that happens. And this movie, there's a big chunk, about 40 minutes of this movie that is the trial of what happened. And
it's very ambiguous. I mean, I think that's what we were touching on before, that ultimately what comes to unfold is that, he decides in the boat, I'm not going to kill her. I can't go through with it, right? But then when she falls in the water,
it's convenient.
He could save her, but he doesn't save her.
Right.
So that's like the moment. That's like the ambiguity.
Yes. So the whole thing is about the ambiguity of the crime.
Right, and Raymond Burr, who was like, a defense attorney, and Perry Mason is like this, is like a really aggressive prosecutor in this, and he has a moment where he's very quiet for most of it, but then he explodes and acts out for the jury what he thinks happens, which we know it didn't happen. That cursor's in my face. He hits with the oar. He takes the oar and whacks it like, that's what you did to her. You hit her with the oar, right? And
I took this oar like this, and you crashed it down on that poor girl's head
we know that's not what
happened, right?
But it's interesting because it speaks to the whole ambiguity of the movie in general. Of like, what is he guilty, or is it society that's guilty? Like, is this person a victim of the expectations we put on for status and wealth, and like you said, that myth that we can ever outrun the socioeconomic position we are born into? And this movie is telling you, no, you can't. That's all a lie. It's going to come to get you, and it's going to drag you back down to the poorhouse,
where you belong,
with a soup kitchen and your mama with the prayers and all that shit. And she ends up coming to him in the jail cell, and it's very bizarre because he's even in this moment of almost like delirium and innocence, and where he still is am I guilty? I want to know. I don't know.
Let's say, because right before that, essentially he takes the stand and he is again very forthright into admitting that he contemplated killing her and going through that. He's very truthful on the stand.
He's actually honest.
From his perspective, he's very truthful about, all of the machinations that wound up into the situation. And that he contemplated that. The response from the room was, the courthouse was very like, ooh, but then he basically said he didn't, and this is what happened. But of course, when the jury deliberates, they go back and they find him guilty, and he comes in guilty, first-degree murder, death penalty, holy shit. And then he goes back to his jail cell. The scene with his mom happens, of course, but this is the big moment, is when the pastor guy comes in, that like
Paul Frees,
right,
who did the voice for the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland and a lot of stuff. He's like sort of a Mel Blanc voice guy.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that. Yeah. So then he basically says like, there's one thing we didn't know about, one thing I'm not sure about this case, and it's like, who were you thinking of? When the boat capsized, were you thinking about Angela, or were you thinking about Alice? And then like you can tell, he admits that I was thinking about the other woman. And then the pastor priest guy says, then in your heart, it was murder, George. And then there's this amazing David Lynch shit, man. Yeah. Superimposition of that dreamy, kiss.
When he's walking to the gas or electric chair.
There's two of them. There's one in that moment, right after the priest talks to him. And then when they're like, all right, son, it's time, we're going to kill you. And they drag him off to the electric chair. Again, it comes back as another motif. And it's that great slow motion, frames ticking off, very dreamlike.
And it's almost like he's totally resigned. Like he's resigned in that moment. Like he's accepted his fate. Yeah. And because he has the dream of her in his mind, it's almost like he's just in a trance walking towards death. As long as I have that dream, that's the last memory. And she'll love me forever.
Well, there's that. And then he does actually get a moment with her, right? Where she comes to his jail cell and she still does love him. You know, and that's kind of miraculous, and so he does get to be right with that in some way,
He gets to sort of like at the end of Sunset Boulevard too. It's like, it's about the delusion that sort of like that person descends into that oblivion with the delusion, keeping them kind of like afloat is sort of, but it's like a comfort. But I think it's like some other quote that I was reading was like basically like, this is not a movie about like the moral life or like the rich, wealthy life. It's about the gray area that like exists in between. Like what is, it's all about that ambiguity here.
Yeah. And again, just bleak, dark ending. We just see him walk, presumably right into his death, or right up to that point, and it's just the end, over a card. Where we know that he steps away from, the electric chair. And so it's like, holy shit, hardcore ending.
Nice try trying to jump classes,
Yes, right.
Yeah, not this time.
Not this time. So long, buddy. Yeah. And so, but yeah, I mean, just incredible film. And, again, just really coming from a place of real darkness. You know, you can feel that tangible darkness that George Stevens experienced, you know, in World War II, and of course Montgomery Clift. So many people are bringing so much weight and authenticity to the movie.
Because the noir, it's like...
We'll never know.
God!
Finish your sentence. There's a law that says you can finish your sentence. What is it? Quick.
I know. I was going to say, like, from comedy to noir, it's like he was like, I need to say something about our society.
Right.
I've seen too much not to say something about our society.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, everybody. That was 1 fucking hour on A Place in the Sun. Again, that's a jam-packed movie with lots there.
Yeah.
But really cool film.
That flew by.
It did. It was crazy. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we were living in the movie. You know, and I know we didn't give a ton of time to that last half an hour of the trial, but you know, it is kind of like in a stylish way, kind of rehashing some of the things that we saw earlier.
Yeah.
But it's that slow build, you know, into where this movie is going in the first half, you know, that I think is the most, so it's so effective. Anyway, I'm cheating. All right. So that was 1951, everybody. Woo! Very excited for this. I'm excited to where we're going from here. Again, much like last week, we're gonna get better with this. I promise. Okay. We're gonna get better at picking the next week's film sooner.
Oh, right.
Because we have not yet properly identified what we're doing for 1952 next week, so we can't announce it here. But we're gonna get better at that. We will have them figured out as we go, or we will do. And I do want to do some polls.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
We'll bring back the Instagram polls.
That'd be fun.
I love polls.
Because there's some years that are like even too hard to choose. Right?
I know.
There's some amazing years that like 54, I think, is like an insane year.
55 is insane.
Yeah,
57 is insane.
I don't know if we could make the choice on our own.
I know. So we're going to do some polls for sure. But so we're not sure quite yet what we're doing for 52. There's some amazing options. We'd love to hear. Why not? Jump in the comments, hit us up in the comments of this video or wherever you're listening to this, or DM us or whatever. Let us know what you'd like to see for 52, because we're really, we're stuck between a couple of different good options here. So any indication would help us. But yeah, next week will be 1952, of course, and we'll announce via YouTube post and an Instagram post what we're going to do ahead of time. So in case you want to watch the movie before the episode drops, you'll have a few days to do that. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much for being with us tonight for this. Again, patreon.com/onefuckinghour is where you can sign up for $5 a month, get access to all of our bonus eps, including the new one, which is, that's a hot potato. You're going to love it, I promise. Or you're going to hate it, which is going to be fun either way, though. That's, of course, the bonus episode of us talking about the top 100 movies from the 21st century, according to the New York Times, that was published last summer. And you can also, if you want all your bonus shit to live on YouTube, of course, you can find the join button underneath this video, become a moment of the channel, same price, same perks, same bullshit. But anyway, we can't leave you guys, I guess, before we get out of here with your Momen of Zen. And we'll see you next week for 1952. What the fuck's it going to be? I don't know, guys. I guess we'll figure it out. All right, everybody. Take care. So long.
Bye.
And goodbye.
Bye.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we have a double treat. We'd like to announce the first and the last appearance of Montgomery Clift, an interview show on television.
One day, they decided to play a trick on him. They poured out the whole contents of the thermos and poured in all orange juice. And when he came and he took a sip, he made a terrible face and he said, "Who put orange juice in my orange juice?"
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man. Oh.